My name is David Wall, and my speech name is Homelessness, Past and Present. It's often easy to forget the homeless man sitting on the street corner or the woman panhandling under the bridge. But it's important to remember that these are people, even when they start to blend into their cityscape. Recently, in 2013, the Dallas Morning News reported a 40% increase in homelessness in the Dallas area alone. And what this tells us is that homelessness is an issue that's going to immediately go away, but instead that it's an issue that's going to be present in our society, and we need to find ways to deal with it and to deal with it morally and justly. And now, one thing that I've learned while I've been working with the homeless and also been doing academic research with the homeless is that homeless rights are constantly abused and attention needs to be drawn to their issues. And now, to give a better picture of this, I want to take you through the way homeless were treated both in the past and then in today's Dallas cityscape. Often homelessness is, their abuse is justified with a moral or philosophical system. In the case of 1800s Victorian England, it was justified with the system of utilitarianism. Now, utilitarianism states that whatever gives the greatest sum of happiness to society is the proper and moral decision. Now, in his book, Justice, Michael J. Sandel gives a very good example of how this can be implemented and can violate rights. The political philosopher Jeremy Bentham advocated for placing the homeless in prisons and workhouses so that he could just get them off the street. Now, his justification for doing so was that whenever he saw the homeless on the street, it inconvenienced him to see them on the street. And obviously, the homeless were suffering on the street, so it would be best if he just took them off the street and put them in a jailhouse. Now, this obviously violates their personal rights to be human beings out and doing what they need to do. Instead, puts them in violation, puts them into workhouses. And now, recently in 2002, the BBC went back and did a piece on these workhouse conditions. And these workhouses were even worse than the average Victorian labor conditions of the time, which means they had even longer hours, there was even less safety, there was even more disease, because they were in extremely tight quarters with terrible food, working extremely long hours. And now the romantic poet Percy Blythe Shelley actually speaks out against these in his poem Mask of Anarchy. Now, most of Mask of Anarchy is talking about the working poor rising up in a peaceful fashion, and it's more of this anti-violence poem almost. But he takes time out of that poem to speak out against how these workhouses violate the personal rights of the individuals that are put into them. And now, workhouses may seem like an issue of the past, but they're not. I was recently reading an article published this year, 2014, in the Dallas Observer that stated that the city of Dallas is arresting homeless for sleeping on the streets. Now that's basically arresting the homeless for being homeless, a condition that they can't really help, something that they're just stuck into, that asking many of them probably wouldn't want to be in. And so the reasoning behind it is eerily similar to the reasoning that Jeremy Bentham used to put homeless into workhouses in Victorian England. Downtown business owners were inconvenienced that homeless were sitting on their doorsteps when they went to work, and they thought those homeless would be better off in jail or maybe in a shelter. And now, once again, this violates the personal rights of the homeless and their right to kind of be human and make independent decisions. Now, interestingly enough, this law was banned by a judge. It was declared unlawful to practice, but the Dallas Police Department is still practicing it. And now, they practice it with a loophole. By never convicting the homeless, they're able to keep practicing this law because no homeless person can take it to court without it first being taken to court outright. And so what we have is our own police department breaking the law to violate our personal rights. And just as workhouses violated rights of the poor in the 1800s, so too does this law and the Dallas Police Department's policy violate the rights of the homeless. And so it's easy to look at these past issues and think that they're gone. Like these workhouses, you know, they were a big issue in the past, and we think that when we read this, that this is something that's our past as a modern democracy, it's gone. but instead we have our homeless being jailed for being homeless. And it is up to those with a voice to stand up to these policies and help the voiceless have a voice.